What's up, Canes fans? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Friday. We are going to be talking the big news of the day, the NCAA antitrust settlement. We're going to answer some questions. The biggest one, does this impact or eliminate NIL and collectives? The answer, no. We'll get into that. And also, I'm going to take you guys to the bank, give you the absolute latest on recruiting as Miami gears up for a series of big recruiting weekends. Also, again, hope everybody has a great weekend. And remember to honor the folks who gave the ultimate sacrifice for this country, the greatest country in the world. First, I want to talk about some attorneys that are not necessarily in the news like some of these other attorneys, but they are working tirelessly for their clients, and that is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. All right, Pete, pull up the tweet. The biggest news of the day: the NCAA has reached a settlement in the House class action. This is the big antitrust case. And the headline is they have now agreed to revenue sharing, basically abandoning the amateurism model. Now, let me emphasize what's happening here. First of all, you're talking about $2.8 billion in back damages to the former athletes who were not able to share in this NIL revenue. This case settled, but this is nowhere near done. First of all, there is a settlement agreement, a formal settlement agreement that needs to be ironed out. A lot of details. There's going to be opt-outs to the class. How many opt-outs are there going to be to the class? Are these antitrust cases going to go away? Probably not. This is not going to be the final one. We'll see what happens. Also, the court has to approve the settlement. How is this money going to be distributed? Who's going to be in charge? Is there going to be a class administrator? Or is it going to be the judge? What's going to be the role of the schools? Does the money need to be distributed equally to female and male athletes under Title IX? Whole lot of unknowns here. Also looming, which has nothing to do with the settlement, are these athletes employees? That's an issue that's in the separate case brought by Dartmouth athletes, and that is still an open question that has to be decided by the courts. It's not going to be decided by this settlement. So really, the bottom line is major step because colleges are agreeing that they need to pay players and share in revenue that they're making. But a lot of unanswered questions, and this does not impact, or at least certainly does not eliminate collectives like Canes Connection. The numbers, again, I mentioned $2.8 billion. It's going to be the proposed revenue sharing model going forward is 22% of revenue. Revenue is estimated about $100 million for athletic departments. So that's about $22 million. Rough numbers, but that's where they're at right now. Again, this does not include NIL money, Canes Connection money. And this is, again, very preliminary. This is college's attempt to finally just give up their old arguments that they held on to for decades about amateurism and take a step forward. But really, in my view, they're trying to be quite sneaky and act like the NCAA always acts and try to get more power in the bureaucracy in Indianapolis. I'll explain why. So we're talking about revenue sharing here. This is the money going into athletic departments. 22% to the athletes. Now, NFL, NBA, major leagues, you're talking about 50% or close to 50% revenue sharing. 22 is a much lower number. And the reason it's a lower number is because the colleges are going to take the position, hey, we need to pay for Olympic sports. The United States doesn't pay for its own Olympic program. It's outsourced to the colleges, so this is good for everybody. And we need to take care of women's sports, other sports that are not revenue generating. So 22% goes to the athletes. The rest goes to stuff like that. And of course, these fat administrator salaries for the people in these colleges, which in my opinion, in higher education in general, is way too much. But that's a separate topic. Anyways, so you got 20% instead of 50%. This is not collectively bargained like the NFL or NBA where there's a union involved. You're talking about plaintiffs' lawyers basically representing college athletes. College athletes don't have much of a say. That's an issue. Ultimately, what's going to have to happen here, and this is what I want people to be aware of and to really understand this issue in terms of what is actually happening as opposed to some of these terms and, hey, NCAA, we're doing these players a favor. They're not. Here's what happened. The NCAA read Judge Kavanaugh's opinion where he just basically called them an illegal cartel, a criminal cartel, which we all know. And they got scared. And they decided to settle this antitrust case. They were facing billions in damages. They decided to cut their losses, settle the case, and then propose this new system as a sign of good faith. Hey, this is what we're going to do going forward. They're going to go to Congress to try to get this codified. They're going to tell Congress, hey, we need safe harbor protection, legal safe harbor protection from future antitrust suits, so we're not constantly getting sued. We need federal law to preempt state law because all the states have their own NIL law. And then this is the nastiest part, and this is what people need to understand cannot happen. The NCAA is going to ask Congress to give them safe harbor to enforce their rules. What that means is the NCAA goes back to being the NCAA that you expected. They're going to be doubling their workforce, tripling their workforce, the same incompetent losers that have terrorized for years from Indianapolis. They're going to look at NIL deals to determine whether they're true NIL or collective NIL. In other words, are they like a live done being paid as an influencer, or is there a player being paid because they're a great player? And they're going to have the authority to enforce those rules. We know how the NCAA enforces rules unevenly, with incompetence and with a lot of dumb people involved. But they're trying to get more power, and they're asking Congress, hey, Congress, we have lost every single lawsuit that we've been involved in. We've been shredded unanimously. Republican and Democrat, conservative and liberal judges have bashed us to death. We're the most hated organization in the world, and we lose in court constantly. But Congress, give us safe harbor protection to double, triple our workforce and do what we were doing before, but more. And as a carrot, we're going to give these players 22%, most of which is not, or all of which is not going to the football players. It's an insane concept. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to tell Congress, hey, we're protecting women's sports. We're protecting Olympic sports. Congress, you don't have to pay for Olympic sports. We're taking care of that. That's why this 22% makes sense. But the truth is, NIL money, collective money, is extra money. It's not revenue sharing. It's not the money from TV deals that's going to these players. It's money from people like you, supporters of the program, who want us to support great football players and basketball players and great student athletes. So it's a different pot of money that the NCAA wants to just take away from the players and say, you can't have this. You'll get a little bit of this revenue sharing. We're still going to take the majority of it. We're still going to have these fat cat administrators. We're going to get more people employed in NCAA. And we're going to keep this basically the old system with a little bit more money going to the players, but less than you're getting now because the NIL is now removed. That cannot happen. It is improper. It has nothing to do with Olympic sports or women's. All it has to do is about the NCAA taking power back through Congress. And that needs to be thoroughly rejected by the people, by the media, by everybody involved, because it is absurd. Read the line. That is happening with the NCAA. I expect it to fail. It's an election year. Once people realize what's happening, the NCAA is a hated organization for everything they've done over the years. I expect it to fail. But what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to spread awareness of what this really is about. Bottom line, Canes Connection is still rolling. Canes Connection is still doing what they do as the top collective in the country. And it doesn't stop. And we need support like you. We had a great Zoom call yesterday. Talked about some information with the team, long Q&A. You've seen the results. You've seen the portal. You've seen recruiting. This thing's rolling. Even the revenue sharing model, if all goes according to NCAA's plan, won't take effect until next year. And the truth be told, I expect Congress not to green light one of the most hated organizations in the world, which is the NCAA. So keep supporting Canes Connection. That is going to be a difference maker, especially if everybody's revenue sharing. That might be created equal. Collectives aren't created equal. And Miami has shown that they have one of the top collectives in the country. It is a significant competitive advantage for your Miami Hurricanes, which is why we thank you for being a part of it. And if you're not, sign up at canesconnection.com, promo code CIS. We're going to keep this thing rolling and keep that advantage as we keep stacking this roster, just like we went over the roster yesterday, how much it's improved. We're not stopping. And we'll talk recruiting too, which is going to lead me into the bank. But before I get to that, you see Canes Wear, rocking the Canes Wear shirt. Panthers full bloom, man. They are rolling. They're the best team in town. Get your Panthers gear at caneswear.com or the store at Davie. If you just want to get Canes stuff, you're not a Miami sports fan, you're a Miami Hurricane fan, you got all that at Caneswear, caneswear.com. I'm losing my voice yelling at this NCAA. All the stuff at caneswear.com. Best collection of Canes gear in the country. And if you go to the store, the best service in town. All right. That was a lot Let's talk recruiting. Let's talk the bank. Let's talk about the weekends coming up starting May 31st. It is going to be a loaded June with big time visitors coming on campus. And just going to go through a couple of these names and just walk through it. You got Byron Lewis, the running back from American Heritage, set to come. Shakai Mills Knight, running back from Chattanooga, originally from Quebec, Canada. He's in town. These are two big running backs, potentially to complement Pringle. Gerard Pringle, the running back commit from Armwood. So both of those guys are in town. Miami was sizing them up. It is not a guarantee Miami goes with a second back because they love Pringle. He was someone they saw in spring and was even better than they thought he was, and they liked him a lot. That 10.8 speed, very productive, tough, bigger than you think. But these are two very talented backs. Miami will bring them on campus and really you get a good look at those guys and recruit them hard. Receiver, big picture. One thing I was told about this recruiting class is the offensive line was the focus the first year. The defensive line was the focus the second year. You saw the results with those two. Wide receiver and defensive back are the focus this year. The wide receiver class is extremely deep with premium talent. DB class is not as deep, but the guys that are really high on the board are guys that like Miami for different reasons. So I expect Miami to hit a home run with those two classes like they did with defensive line last year, offensive line in year one. Some names on the board, to me, the top two guys, Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown. Other guys, Josh Moore, super talented from West Broward, Dalen Upshaw from Alabama, and of course, Jamie French from Jacksonville. A lot of big names. And one name that is visiting this weekend that Miami really likes, Tyler Williams from Riverview. We broke him down in one of the previous podcasts as a prospect spotlight. Super smart kid, basketball player, very productive, which is big to me for receivers. Are you a productive player? He's very productive. A lot of long touchdowns, kick returns, punt returns, catch and run, bombs, you name it. He's got size as well. I believe he's already up to 190 or in the high 180s. So he's got size, 6'1". Again, great kid. A lot of things you like. With wide receiver, you want to see athletes, of course, with size, but you also want to, and strength, but you also want to see character. You want to see production. I think Tyler Williams gives you all that. George is involved, some other big schools involved, but he's visiting Miami, and Miami really likes him, and he really likes Miami. He's visited unofficially twice, I believe, in the past. All right, some other guys. You got the two commits coming at tight end, Brock Schott, Luca Gilbert. Check out the commitment videos we made for those guys when they committed if you haven't seen them already, but they'll be on campus. Miami loves both those guys. At the offensive line position, Jaden Wilkerson from Orlando. Big kid. He's like 6'6", 350, also with a basketball background, athletic, raw. The freaks of nature aren't at offensive line, at least the highly rated freaks of nature like they were maybe in that Francis Malinois year. But there are athletic, high upside, big body monsters out there that Mirabal loves to get, just like Jeff Stoutland before him. They love these big body athletes that they can coach up and turn into NFL monsters. They view Jaden Wilkerson that same way. Also, TK, I'm going to learn his name eventually, Mux, M-U-E-X, the commit from Fletcher. He'll be here as well. Committed last week. We did a commitment breakdown for him. Super talented, same mold, 340 plus, high upside, only scratching the surface. But keep an eye on Jaden Wilkerson from Orlando. Defensive end. Pete, pull up the highlights here of Hayden Lowe from California. This is a big time player, blue chip player. I saw him in person in the spring. He visited. I thought he was an alum. This guy is big. He looks like a grown man. He's got great size. Great. You watch the film, just great upside. Miami has a better shot at this kid than people think. They have a really good relationship with him. He visited unofficially in spring. He's visiting this coming weekend, May 31st, not Memorial Day, the weekend we're talking about here, May 31st. And he's got a lot of talent. Miami's going to have to battle the California schools. They're going to have to battle Oregon, kind of the usual West Coast suspects. But those are battles Miami's been winning. You go to Oregon, you get Riley Williams. You go to Washington, you get Jaden Wayne, who's since transferred, but they won that battle. Francis Malinois, originally from the West Coast, or from the Pacific, and then moved to the West Coast. So, you're getting guys from there at the Miami Hurricanes with Mario Cristobal running the show. I think Hayden Lowe is the next one that they have their sights set on as a potential big time edge rusher to add to this class. Keep an eye on that one. Miami has a lot of momentum there. Another guy Miami likes and has momentum with, Zion Grady. We did a spotlight on him in the past. Defensive end from Enterprise, Alabama. He's coming with two of his teammates, Eric Winters, the linebacker / safety. We like him at linebacker. And Andrew Purcell, the defensive back, kind of a do-it-all defensive back, also plays basketball. Miami loves all three of those kids. They are not a package deal. It's not you're taking one to get the other. Miami would take any one of those three, loves all three of those players. They'll all be on campus. I think they're furthest along with Grady right now, but they're doing well with the other two. And this weekend, the May 31st weekend, anything can happen. Floyd Boucard will be coming, the defensive tackle from Central, originally from Canada, moved to Mobile. Now is at Central, was injured this spring. But me and Pete had a chance to see him at the camp, I believe the Under Armour camp, and he was outstanding, supreme athlete, won all his reps, just a huge, huge upside with him. Miami really likes him, would love to get him in the fold. He's visiting with his teammate, linebacker Ezekiel Marcelin, a guy Miami also likes from Miami Central. Defensive back to keep an eye on, Aiden Anding, visiting from Ruston, Louisiana. I've heard a lot of Texas buzz, but when I'm talking to people, I think Arkansas is the biggest threat, but Miami's in a very, very good position. There's a basketball player who just switched to football, was outstanding as a junior, outstanding MVP-type performances in the camp circuit, arrow pointing way up. Great evaluation by Miami to get in on this kid early. He's only going to get more and more recruited. Miami is in a very good spot with Aiden Anding visiting this weekend. I love multi-sport athletes. Javion Campbell, big, super talented, another basketball convert, but this is a big one on the defensive line. Probably will grow into a defensive tackle, if not a really big defensive end. From Kentucky, has offers from Kentucky, going to visit Kentucky, but look at the other names on his visit list. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. Big-time player. Miami saw him in person. They think he's got a lot of upside, and his first time on campus will be this official visit. We'll see what happens there. Jabari Antoine from Louisiana, top 5 corner in the nation, committed to LSU. Those are always tough when you talk about LSU commits, Louisiana kids, but Miami's going to chip away. They've been on this kid for a long, long time. Chevis Jackson, LSU grad, Gidrian, a Louisiana guy, Dennis Smith, a Louisiana guy. So a lot of Louisiana ties on staff. They're going to be working this kid hard. He will visit, and maybe if you don't flip him now, something happens at LSU. They have a bad year. Chip Kelly says some stupid stuff with a Southern accent. You can maybe roll in on a Jabari Antoine. Who else are we talking about here? I believe that's it for the visit, guys. Some guys I wanted to touch on that looked really good during our spring evals. I mentioned Gerard Pringle really opened some eyes and really impressed people. Tylon Lee is someone from North Florida. Keep an eye on his development. He kind of reminds me of Greg Rousseau. Great film, highly productive, great motor, makes a lot of plays sideline to sideline, great length, legitimate 6'5", 6'6", and long arms, good body to grow, raw, but the hustle, the athleticism, and the production is there. I like Tylon Lee, and Miami liked him a lot in their in-person eval. A couple other guys I wanted to focus on that are on campus now that have made a nice impression. It's just workouts, right? But these are guys that when you saw that, really Miami's getting their first time eyes on these guys in that green tree setting, in that IPF setting, seeing them work out, seeing them move, seeing them work. Jordan Lyle, the running back from St. Thomas, signed last year. Great feedback on him. I heard he showed up looking great size-wise, moving well, all business. He looks like an instant contributor a la Mark Fletcher. Keep an eye on Jordan Lyle. Again, just workouts, but very good impression physically. Simeon Barrow, same thing. Good movement, good professional approach. He's probably going to be a starter, but like what they've seen early with him. Diani Hill, his ability to run, which is something you can kind of tell. You don't know how they're going to play corner until you put him in pads and watch him. But when you get a guy from G5, you wonder, is he going to have the ability to do what he needs to do athletically? I'm told Diani Hill running great, looking good just athletically. And OJ Frederic, a sleeper kind of signee from St. Thomas Aquinas, a guy who played receiver, played corner, played special teams for Deerfield, and then later for St. Thomas Aquinas. Heard he looks really athletic, as advertised there. So that's the story, man. This is the team. I don't expect another portal addition. So this is the team we got. We went over the roster yesterday. If you haven't seen that, check that out. Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast because we're going to keep rolling. We're rolling on Memorial Day. We're on every day. We don't stop. And just a lot of great stuff coming. And recruiting, high school recruiting, portal's dying down. Now high school recruiting is picking up, and we'll give you the absolute latest with the bank and just in general. giving you straight inside information on what's happening with Miami Hurricanes on the recruiting trail. Again, have a great weekend. Thank you to everyone who has served, and certainly to the families of those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. And go Canes, man. Have a great one.